Happy New Music Friday, everybody. It's me, Kane from Dusty, Oregon, and welcome to my album reviews. This week, I've got a handful of stellar releases and a few misses, we'll say. So stay tuned. Let's get started. So while us elder emos are busy trying to figure out if the When We Were Young festival is a scam or not, the whole next generation of emo kids is just blossoming. One such band is Connecticut-based five-piece Anxious and their new record, Little Green House. And as you might expect, their music is riddled with self-doubt, insecurities, emotions, and it's predominantly based and written on during their formative years and high school days, since they are just barely legal. I don't even know if they could drink in the States or not, but that's beside the point. Regardless, this is a debut full length. It's called Little Green House, and it's been in the making essentially for them for like the past 5 years, if you really think about it. They've been touring, releasing a couple EPs, and they've kind of refined their sound and put together their best of best for this debut. They've just been kind of prepping themselves to be one of the next phenomenal emo hardcore punk bands from their graduating class, their like generation, if you will. And the album is full of sensational like 90s based riffs. You know, Jimmy World is a big influence there. A mix of clean and hardcore vocals, a couple slow jams in there too, just to balance it out. And the lyrics are just full of dysfunctional stories about the changing tides of relationships, you know, personal, romantic, and familial even. At the risk of sounding like an old man, Little Green House is a fantastic introduction to a band that has so much ahead of them. They are young, they're excited, they're doing great work, and I love this record. This is a nice solid 8 out of 10 for me. So speaking of emo music elders, Winnipeg hardcore act Comeback Kid just put out their 7th album, Heavy Steps. It is a wicked collection. They started writing it pre-pandemic, so ironically enough, across the country, some in Vancouver, Toronto, Winnipeg, and the pandemic was actually able to bring them together and return to their home base in Winnipeg, which ended up leading them to writing a bunch of songs that are traditional Comeback Kid. But it still feels refreshed and newer as well. The riffs are just heavier, more melodic, tighter, and this is, you know, obviously because they've been playing music together for almost 20 years, but they just sound as energetic as ever. And this album is pretty consistent, and there's like this cohesive dynamic that plays throughout Heavy Steps. For that whole half hour, it's just this ferocious speaker blasting hardcore punk that just is filled with melody and sing-along choruses and moshing and everything glorious about it. And the whole album just sounds urgent and unapologetic. And the beautiful thing of it is that they're not trying to reinvent the wheel. They're not doing anything too new or different, but at the same time, they're just kind of confirming their status as one of Canada's best hardcore acts. So I'm going to give this album an 8 out of 10. So this next band, they've been flying under people's radars, I've noticed. I just checked their Spotify, and their monthly listeners is about 300, which is pretty small. They definitely deserve more. Hopefully this will help change that. This is a Norwegian indie rock outfit called Onsloow. Hopefully I'm saying that right. 2 O's in it. They've released their debut self-titled album, ST. I'm assuming that's self-titled. And it is the definition of a hidden gem. This is a great collection. Right out of the gate, they start stepping into energetic indie rock mixed with a bit of pop punk and glossy dream pop and some sugar-coated vocals that just tie it all together. And what's really exciting about this album is that the lead singles, I heard all of them before this album came out, and what's amazing is that those aren't even just all the favorites from the collection. There's still more to discover, and with 8 tracks, it's pretty impressive that the majority of ST is just a no-skip release. I think there's a few moments that are somewhat dragging, but you still find an enjoyable quality out of them, and the ones that really do stand out and make up for it, which is such a great feeling. And they have this underlying dream pop demeanor throughout the whole record, but they kind of kick up the energy a notch by bringing in those pop punk influences and those more upbeat indie dance rock kind of elements. And when they're at their best, which is the majority of the record, there's something absolutely irresistible about their songwriting and their hooks. And I just really enjoyed this record from the moment it started. So this one gets a 7 out of 10. I'm going to be honest about you with this record. I didn't really understand what was being said, maybe like 10% of it at best, and that's kind of me being generous. But at the same time, I felt that great music kind of transcends the language barrier because this is a Francophone album. And for Francophone R&B artist Les Louanges, his new album Crash speaks to the masses through groovy melodies and glossy, ear-tingling production. And the 15-track effort from the Montreal-based singer-songwriter, it alternates between R&B, a bit of soul, funk, jazz, neo-alternative. There's just so much going on, but at the core of this record is his beautiful, soft croon that kind of flows and alternates through the different styles. And despite not knowing what he's actually singing about, but according to the press release, there's a lot about love and relationships and just the overall chaos of life. His performance is still just engaging and flexible, and it switches effortlessly depending on the song's direction. Clocking in at around 45 minutes, it does have its moments that it feels kind of long and sort of dragging, but at the same time, there's these energy boosting tracks that kind of reset the energy. There's also a couple of spoken word interludes that kind of cut the flow a little bit to add some variance to it as well. Overall, I really enjoyed this record. It sounds beautiful. He's got a wonderful voice, great songwriting composition, and I'm going to give this one a 7.5 out of 10. And to close off this list, we're going back to some Canadian long-standing acts. This time, it's Toronto's very own Billy Talent. They have just released their 6th album, Crisis of Faith, an album like many over the last 2 years that faced a lot of obstacles, both personal and external, with COVID and family matters. And they're almost into their 3rd decade as a band now, which is very impressive. And they've been able to solidify themselves as a household name in Canadian culture. And a part of that is because of the iconic vocals of frontman Ben Kowalczyk. So with that being said, while, they've always had this knack for writing these really sturdy, powerful, pounding riffs with their hybrid alternative punk rock sound, their 6th album, Crisis of Faith, it just kind of continues their downward trend of intensity, I found, in the last few releases, and they're starting to lean more on the pop side of things rather than kind of holding on to their more visceral punk style that was in the early 2000s, especially because they brought on Rivers Cuomo from Weezer. And ironically enough, it's funny because a lot of these newer bands are trying to recreate the sound of the early 2000s, while these bands that are from the early 2000s are trying to stay fresh and new and reinvigorated, and they're kind of doing this weird topsy-turvy thing that ends up being very one-sided, and Crisis of Faith is a perfect example of that. But nevertheless, Crisis of Faith does have its moments of triumph and these roaring sing-along choruses, a few far between, I'll say, but at the end of the day, the album just feels like such a cluster of songs. There's no coordination, there's no cohesiveness to it. It's just like a mixed match of style and energy, and it comes out feeling choppy and disjointed and almost plays like a rock opera without that climactic intensity that makes you feeling invigorated and ready to go again. It's weird because this album does sound like Billy Talent, especially thanks to, Ben's vocals, but it doesn't quite fit into their discography, I feel. For me, this isn't a record I would really want to revisit, especially considering their extensive, amazing discography behind them. I don't think I'm going to be even revisiting this album ever again. I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 10. Sorry, guys. Thanks for watching, everybody. Those have been my album reviews for the week of January 21st. Let me know if you agreed, maybe disagreed. Did I forget anything that I should have brought up? Maybe some albums that you loved this week. Let me know in the comments. Let me know. I love to hear from you. And don't forget to follow. Every Friday, I'm going to be trying to release these new videos and album reviews as well. So there's way more music to come this new year. So check out dustyorgan.com for even more new music. And if you're feeling extra generous, I've just launched a merch line. You can check out dustyorgan.bigcartel.com. The link is in the description. Head over there, grab some cool swag, and support a cool music blogger like me. I'll see you guys next week. Take care.